Applying innovation and creativity causes intellectual property, which creates value added for products and services. Regards as important factor for increasing competitive capability of entrepreneur, including creating economic growth and competitive potential of the country. Department of Intellectual Property, Ministry of Commerce, has important mission in country's intellectual property management system development. Since registration and protection of intellectual property law development, deterrence of intellectual property infringement, including commercial intellectual property promotion and utilization. Department of Intellectual Property is the institute providing intellectual property protection registration in Thailand, and to reply to government's policy in creating strength for entrepreneurs' business competitiveness in both domestic and foreign. Department of Intellectual Property emphasizes on development in excellently providing services by elevating and increase the quality of registration service, and informing intellectual property information to be convenient, rapid, and adoption of information technology to support services, both in patent registration to protect new complex inventions, which employed high technologies, petty patent registration to protect elementary inventions, which employed middle technologies, patent registration for product design that protects shapes and external features of product, trademark registration to protect marks, names, brands, symbols related to products or services. Registration of geographical indicator, GI, to protect products that their source of production and special characteristics exist, differ from other areas, and the geographic name could be used as marketing tool to create value added for products. Service of copyright information to create database which would promote copyrighted work utilization. Department of Intellectual Property developed in-service tasks to facilitate people by developing electronic registration, e-filing, and intellectual property information and counseling service via call center. And expanded services to facilitate people in provincial areas in giving counsel, suggestion, and intellectual property registration services by establishing 7 regional intellectual property centers in Chiang Mai, Khon Kaen, Chonburi, Songkhla, Phuket, Samut Prakan, and Nakhon Ratchasima, as well as mobile unit for radical services in various provinces. Besides protecting domestic intellectual property, Department of Intellectual Property is also performing work in connection with registration for the protection of intellectual property rights under international agreements to which Thailand has become a party, such as Patent Cooperation Treaty (PCT), to facilitate in request of intellectual property protection in foreign countries, and also improving intellectual property related systems to be well suited to changing intellectual property related circumstances, both in Thailand and in foreign countries. By being a member of World Intellectual Property Organization, such as Madrid Protocol, to facilitate in trademark registration. Department of Intellectual Property has mission in Thai intellectual property protection system development by developing intellectual property law to be consistent with universal standard, and provides service in protection and defending intellectual property rights through the patent and trademark appeal, reconcilement and suppression of intellectual property disputes, and gives counsel in intellectual property law, including the integration of intellectual property infringement deterrence with other institutes such as Department of Special Investigation, Royal Thai Police, Thai Customs Department, and private proprietary, included with intellectual property case exhibit destruction, while case terminated, and campaign to create conscious in intellectual right respect. Department of Intellectual Property promotes intellectual property development by developing cooperation between countries and create intellectual property cooperation and agreement between countries. Focuses on creating knowledge, understanding, and realization in intellectual property right with every social segment through arrangement of training, seminar, patent agent training, investigation of patent and trademark information, creation of intellectual property network with various segments including institutes and regional educational institutions to promote commercial creation and utilization of intellectual property. Campaigning to create conscious in intellectual right respect and avoid infringement. Arrangement of creative work and commercial intellectual property utilization contest. Creation of documents disseminating important intellectual property information, including providing service of investigating from database of patent and trademark registration, and establishment of library collecting intellectual property academic information for interested persons. Department of Intellectual Property is ready to work to be main organization in intellectual property right protection of Thailand by developing intellectual property management system, promoting intellectual property protection registration, and utilizing commercial intellectual property to strengthen competitive capability of entrepreneurs and sustainably develop country's trading economy. Department of Intellectual Property, Ministry of Commerce. Protect ideas, focus on service mind, emphasize on creative work. Department of Intellectual Property Hotline 1368 worldwideweb.ipthailand.go.th